Get ready to do a video on the 5 biggest mistakes to make with your IRA. And then I had the epiphany of sorts of this article I read back in February of 2018, which I wrote a blog post on my blog. And the blog post is called The Worst Financial Advice Ever. And I figured, instead of just doing the blog post, let me do a video on this as well, because it's absolutely the worst financial planning advice ever. And I want to share with you here today because this goes into my next video on the 5 biggest mistakes you can make with your IRA. And actually, it bothers me because, a lot of these, and this is what I say, don't just follow people on YouTube, myself included, people writing blogs, Susie Orman or Dave Ramsey, without just doing your own due diligence. I mean, I frankly, whatever you got to do on your own financial planning, you've got to make sure it's squared away. Because if you just follow an expert, and myself included, you could be opening up a world of hurt to you, or even worse, your survivors for sure. So let's dive right into this. If you like what you see here, don't forget to subscribe down below, and then hit the bell to be notified. We do lots of videos here, 2 or 3 a day, because I like it, and I'm going to keep saying it until YouTube yanks the thing from me. Now, on those notes, you never know what the algorithm's going to say. So if one day you wake up and old Josh is no longer on YouTube, that's going to be bad. So maybe YouTube yanked it from me. So if you like what you see, I do keep a blog at heritagewealthplanning.com. So just go there and subscribe, because I do 3 or 4 blog posts a week or emails a week that I send to my subscribers. So you never know. YouTube is a wonderful place, but the algorithms, they aren't human, and robots, you never know what they're up to. All right. So let's dive right into this. Again, this is from February 4th, 2018 on MarketWatch, reputable firm. I look at MarketWatch all the time. In fact, it used to be CBS MarketWatch, and I used to look at them before that was before I even had Yahoo Finance, and Yahoo Finance is now kind of go to Morningstar, but still, I used to use MarketWatch all the time. In fact, I still think MarketWatch has some of the best investment-related, in terms of the data that they give you. It's fantastic. So let's talk about this. I deleted the guy's name who wrote it. You can look it up for yourself. I hate to have to bash people, and I don't want to do that in terms of challenging this gentleman his writing, but he made a huge blunder, and you just can't have that. So, all right. So this guy wrote in, some guy writes in that goes, hey, should this man quietly include his kids in his estate planning, or should give his more hostile children less? And the guy writing in, I'm an upper middle-aged male and 7 years into a happy second marriage to my early senior age wife. My first marriage ended after 30 years, which produced 4 children, all now adults. The divorce went quickly, and the equitable distribution was a bitter, expensive 2-year process leading to significant estrangement from 2 of my children. The other 2 are kind to me, but only one of that pair is kind to their stepmom, who's tried to be kind when allowed. My will leaves my retirement savings, work pension, and any other savings and property to my second wife. She's not in the best of health and would not do well on her current Social Security award. At the time I made my will, there are significant reasons to disinherit my children by default. 3 were quite hostile to me, and the 4th had difficulties with managing her mom's manipulations and greedy demands on her. I'm reconsidering this stance. I'm feeling some sense of recognizing in a final estate. This could be best occurred by designating as beneficiaries on one of my life insurance policies. It would also be a discreet method that would avoid probate and keep some hostile adult kids from their scorned stepmother. However, I don't want to sneak behind my wife's back to do so. I also don't like the discord my marriage this could bring. But there's no way I've found to square this circle, apart from just waiting. I find it ghoulish to mentally calculate on my wife's passing as necessary to bequeath without noise. I also need to admit most of my adult kids continue to be estranged and nasty, despite my reaching out. This leads to another question. If I bequeath, do I do so evenly, proportionally, recognizing those who maintain a relationship? All right, so this guy writes, the moneyist writes back, this is the second time this week that I've received a letter from someone who wants to leave something behind for the children. Actually, let me back up. So in a reading, when I just read that to you, the question from the perplexed, and I read it kind of fast, but just go back in there if you get a chance and see if anything jumped out at you. Anything jump out at you about what he said. So if you need to rewind the video or whatever, or just look at you can read the article, and I'll put a link to it. Because something significant jumps out, and it's horrific that this guy doesn't recognize it. And so let's just go into it. So I'm sorry you've fallen out with your children, or at least they have fallen out with you. And I take my hat off to you for wanting to leave them something. Always remember, there's always two sides to every story. Just got to add that. That's a good instinct. At some point in their lives, they'll remember the good times even for a moment. This will be a testament to the fact that despite everything that went down, you're still their dad. In that spirit, follow your gut, include them in some way, and do so equitably. As your wife, even if you do this quietly, it would always prey on your conscience. And if you predeceased her, she'd find out after you've gone. That may leave her with many unanswered questions. That defeats the purpose of what is doing a good deed in this instance. Include her in the conversation, blah, blah, blah. Okay, so that might seem very nonchalant. No big deal there, right? I mean, he's just talking about what he needs to do for his wife and kids and his estranged kids and whatnot. No, there's a huge deal. Watch this. All right, so I'm right here. My will leaves my retirement savings, work pension, and additional savings of property to my second wife. My will leaves my retirement savings, work pension, and additional savings and property to my second wife. Anything jump out at you there? How does the retirement savings and pensions get transferred? Via will or via beneficiary designations? If you get transferred via will, that means you left your retirement savings and pension to your estate. And that is one of the 5 biggest mistakes I'm going to talk about here in my next video. Can't do that. I mean, you can, but it'd be silly. So in this case, the guy, even though he knows what a beneficiary designation is, because he says he has beneficiary designations on his life insurance right here, designated as beneficiaries to one of my life insurance policies. So he even says it explicitly, but he's saying he's leaving his will is going to take his retirement savings and work pension. So either a couple of things are going on here. One is he hasn't updated his beneficiary designations or made the estate his beneficiary, which is insane. I'll show you why in just a second. Or 2, he has old beneficiary designations, which he hasn't updated, might be his first wife, by the way. And again, in my next video, I'm going to give you an example of how bad that can be. Either way, your will doesn't transfer your retirement savings and work pension. And by the way, what do you think is the biggest asset most people have in the United States? It is a retirement savings. So the fact that this guy is stating explicitly, my will leaves my retirement savings and my pension. Now, your will does transfer other savings and property to my second wife, unless it's in a living trust. So I'm presuming it's not, or else he would have said that, I guess. But in this case, he's saying my will leaves this stuff. What happens when your will receives your IRA? Well, let's go to my blog post and I'll show you. Here, we're going to talk about explicitly, if I can get it right here from IRAhelp.com. IRA help. This is what happens when you leave your IRA to your will, or i.e. your estate. And so what happens is I don't name a beneficiary designation. Instead, I'm naming it as my estate. And what that means is it means it has to be probated. When death occurs before April 1st of the first year after the account order turns 70 and a half, this is called required beginning date. The IRA must be paid out at the end of the 5th year of death. 5-year rule. You leave your IRA to your estate, it must be paid out within 5 years of your date of death. You have no required distributions each year. You just have to make sure the account is empty after the 5th year. Why is that a big deal? Because the facts are, what if you are making good money, your kids are making good money, and now they have to take these mass lump sum distributions. That's going to affect everything. It could affect everything in terms of taxes, in terms of just all kinds of stuff. On top of that, you're taking a non-probated asset, throw it into probate, which means it's public. Don't forget, all this probate is a public proving of your will. So now you want to keep it quiet. Well, the way you keep it quiet is you want to name your kids as the beneficiary of your wife. You certainly don't want to put it through probate. Now, on top of that, what if the wife gets this now? And this is what I talk about in my article. What if the wife gets it, the second wife, and you left it to your will as opposed to beneficiary designations, and she can't stretch it over her life expectancy? In this case, it's probably not a big deal because he's already saying that she's not in great shape. Well, guess what happens, my friends? She's going to have a huge increase in Medicare premiums, huge increases in Social Security taxes, and I talk about in my book, huge increases in all this stuff on top of income taxes as well. I mean, it's just, if you have to take a distribution within 5 years, that completely takes your ability to stretch it out over your life expectancy. And then for this case, let's say the kid, I always use a radiologist. Let's say it's a woman radiologist. You say, I'm going to give it to her, and now she has to inherit this and take it out within 5 years. Say it's $500,000, and each kid gets $125,000. And they take a lump sum distribution. They take it out over 5, whatever it is. I don't care. And all of a sudden, she's making $400,000 or $500,000, and she has to add this to the pie. She's going to lose 35% right off the top. She's also going to lose whatever the state, if she's in Massachusetts, what's that, like 10%, something like that? I mean, she's going to lose a half of the money to taxes. Now, if you would have given it to her via beneficiary designation, again, I talked about it in the book. If you gave it to her by beneficiary designation, A, it's not probated, so there's no probate issue. It's simple. Just she calls the custodian, Vanguard will say in this case, or TI Craft, and says, hey, this is me. My dad's dead. I got a copy of the death certificate, and here's my driver's license. Send me the money. And all they do is they roll it out to an inherited IRA. An inherited IRA, you can stretch the distributions over your life expectancy. The idea that retirement accounts are transferred by will is just horrific. Is on all phases. You're taking a non-probated asset, making it probate. Again, probate is simply a public proving of the will. You're making a lump sum distribution within 5 years. You want to talk about a cat fight? Now you wait until the wife and the 4 kids, the daughters and sons, get down there and start arguing about dad's will, because again, a will is a public proving of your a probate is a public proving of your will. So now you're talking about they're going to fight over dad's will. Like, well, I'm the wife. I should get just And the idea he didn't talk about that. And secondly, I'll throw this in there too. He's worried about predeceasing his wife. Well, guess what? If he predeceases her, she loses her Social Security and she gains his. I mean, that's just how it works. So if he was making $25,000 a year in Social Security and she's only making $10,000 a year in Social Security, when he dies, she loses her 10 but gains his. That's an extra $1,000 a month. Yeah, well, actually more than that. It's $15,000 a year. That's an extra, I don't know, $11.50 a month or something like that. It's just bad. And I get the guy only has so much time to talk about things, but the thing to bring up, my will leaves my retirement savings, work pension, and end their savings to my second wife. I just sit there, I cringe. I say, dude, that should have jumped out at you as horrible. You should have said, no. Don't transfer things via will because you're, I've all rehashed. I don't need to rehash all that. Don't do that. Don't transfer things via will. So anyway, bad piece of writing. I'll share with you the link to my article on this. Worst financial advice ever, and where unbiased equals bad advice. Anyway, I'll just share. I'll put that in the show notes. By all means, click on it. I'll link to. I don't know if I can do it right here, but I'll put the other video I'm getting ready to do on the 5 biggest mistakes you can do with your IRA. I'll do that next. So definitely watch that here next time. You'll see I'll talk even deeper about this for sure. All right. Hey, thanks for coming. If you like what you see, subscribe. You share the videos with folks. The more you share it, and the more you thumbs up, and the more you comment, the more the algorithms will recognize that people like this stuff. So if you would share it, I'd much appreciate that for sure. And then go to Heritage Wealth Planning to see this article that I'll share with you here. I'll put in the show notes. Hey, we'll see you next time. Thanks, guys.